After a little bit of a rough start in the first episode, where Jennifer Walters was introduced being pitched against her cousin, Hulk, one of the most beloved characters in the MCU, will the second episode give her a chance to develop a character on her own merits? And how will this look like? If you want to know more about this, then join me in this short video. I wasn't sure if I do another video for episode 2, but after just seeing it, I just wanted to do a quick catch up on it. Still not sure if I will do that for every episode, but let's find out. Regarding the synopsis, the episode starts with the whole world having just learned that Jennifer Walters is a Hulk. So there's a new superhero in town. While she struggles what to do with it regarding her job, and while we as the audience are still figuring out which of her colleagues is essential for the story and might be a recurring character, she gets fired. So I guess the answer is no one except for her best friend and paralegal, who seems to be following her wherever she goes. While Jen is hitting a very deep low, where she's very much wounded about the fact that she has saved lives and yet is punished by losing her job and nobody else is willing to take her on as a lawyer, we are getting introduced to her larger family, who of course all mention the fact that she is out of a job right now and riding her back a little bit about that. Her father, by the way, played by Mark Lynn Baker, who we might also know as Cousin Larry from Perfect Strangers, is taking her aside a little bit for a one-to-one talk, which she very much appreciates, but as we learn later, also leads into her just doing a lot of chores because now she is strong enough to just do it. Small tasks that might have taken her father a few hours to perform. After this quick interlude, she is approached by the head of a law firm she previously has trialed her case against and only lost by default because she turned into the She-Hulk to save everyone inside the courtroom. Otherwise, the case would have been a clear win for her. In a nutshell, she is offered the job of heading a new division at that law firm that is concentrating their work on representing superhuman people and other creatures of supernatural origin. To that effect, she is also asked to be in her Hulk form all the time at the office, which of course makes her a little bit uncomfortable and makes her question if this job is the right fit for her. Her first job would be to represent Emil Blonsky, aka the Abomination, the guy who tried to kill her cousin way back when he was still played by Edward Norton, which is acknowledged by a not so subtle joke and a wink into the camera. Hesitant at first, she is very much keen on taking on the job after talking to him, because let's look at it this way. He was a highly decorated soldier who was just pumped full of a serum that was supposed to turn him into a super soldier and just turned him into the Abomination. Everything else afterwards is not really his fault, and there are certainly some influences the drug had on his mental state. So putting him in prison might not have been the right decision. After a quick call with Bruce to make sure he is not offended by her taking the case, he gives her green light, saying that he has already forgiven the guy after receiving some nice letters from him a while ago. That phone call ends with Bruce being shown on board of the UFO we have seen in episode 1, the one that caused the car crash, where he is leaving into space. Very likely not to be seen in this whole series anymore, but I wouldn't be disappointed if his story and his adventure in space would be part of this show in a similar fashion where they have dedicated a few episodes of the Boba Fett series on Disney Plus to what happens with Mando and Grogu. I mean, it's a different franchise, but maybe they are picking up on presenting a little bit of a side story with the Hulk as well, because this is pretty much the only way they can show something going on in the Hulk's life, besides him being shown as another sidekick or side figure in another big franchise movie, because they still don't own the rights to do a dedicated movie or show just with him. Those lie still with Universal. So let's see where the journey takes us there. First up, let's address the special effects, especially how Jen's CGI is looking like. This was a concern early on, and I have to say it stays a little bit of a concern because there are moments where the CGI is quite well done and you can see very much detail in her face, while her skin is looking unnaturally clean and unblemished in other scenes. I guess this is something we have to expect for the whole run of a show. I'm still not 100% sure that they will try to bring across a true sitcom style approach to the show, but what I can already say is that her talking into the camera and breaking the fourth wall so far is creating more confusion than anything else, because in this episode there was a longer scene where she was not directly talking into the camera and you were not sure, is she talking to herself, to her new boss, to us? And since that scene wasn't that short, at the end of it, you lost a little bit the thread of what the conversation was going to. Though we had a scene with her whole family, we don't really learn much about her as a person. So the character development could have done a little bit more to show us who she is. But the episode was also very short, with something around 28 minutes or so, which actually is touching on the length of a usual sitcom episode. But that is something we will discuss at the end of the show, I guess. She comes across a little bit more relatable as before, especially in the moments after she got fired, but I still think they could have done a better job regarding character development, because we are now 2 episodes in and the only thing that really stuck with us is that she is quite mouthy around her cousin and likes to talk into the camera, with the latter not really being a character trait. What could end up quite interesting though is the whole legal angle of it, because you never see much concern about a bad guy in a comic movie who was doing things due to the fact that he was the victim of an experiment gone wrong or getting force-fed drugs or something along those lines. Usually it is just normal people who are experiencing bad stuff and then doing bad things, which from their standpoint either are understandable or are being done because they have no control about what they are doing. So digging into that might be quite interesting in a show that is centered in the MCU, where you have so many anti-heroes and villains who might be affected of one of those rulings in one of her cases if one of those becomes a precedent. Personally, the legal drama aspect would interest me more than any kind of sitcom angle, but that may just be me. Okay, let's not stretch that video too long and jump into the rating. Like mentioned before, I was expecting way more character development around Jennifer Walters' person, which did not happen enough. The second episode felt very much like exposition work, which it is, because it sets up everything else that happens afterwards. So on top of not having any character development, also the story elements here feel a little bit rushed, which hopefully is counteracted in one of the next episodes. The second episode I can only score with 6 out of 10 points, because it was nice and over the average, but nothing more than that. How did you like this episode? Was it doing the trick for you, or were you also a little bit underwhelmed by what is going on there? Let me know in the comments. So much for now, see you next time and thanks for watching.